The restaurant was packed. Saturday evening, every table full, every voice competing for space above the low hum of the kitchen. Antonio's Italian Bistro on Piedmont Avenue had been voted best fine dining in Atlanta 3 years running. The lighting was warm, the wine list was impressive, and the pasta was made fresh every single morning by a chef who had trained in Florence. But none of that mattered to the man sitting alone at table 7. Marcus Webb was 42 years old. He owned 3 apartment complexes in Midtown, a chain of successful coffee shops across Georgia, and a real estate portfolio worth just over $43 million. His net worth wasn't flashy, but it was real. Built piece by piece over 18 years of work, 18 years of calculated risks and smart partnerships, and knowing when to hold and when to fold. He was, by any reasonable standard, successful. But sitting across from his wife of 15 years, looking at her perfectly manicured nails and her expression of profound boredom, Marcus felt like he was failing at the only thing that had ever truly mattered. Vanessa Webb was a former pharmaceutical sales representative. She was 39 years old and beautiful in the way expensive maintenance can make anyone beautiful. Hair done every 2 weeks at an exclusive salon in Buckhead. Nails done twice weekly. Facials monthly. Personal trainer 4 times a week. Her closet was worth more than many people's houses. Her jewelry collection alone would put most people's net worth to shame. She had married Marcus when he was just beginning. When he was sleeping in an office, working 80-hour weeks, living on coffee and ambition. She had said she loved him. She had said she believed in him. She had said she would be there through everything. Then he had become successful, and everything had changed. Vanessa spent the marriage increasingly absent, not in body, though she was absent from that too, often sleeping in the guest room or in one of their several homes. She was absent in spirit, in attention, in the small ways that matter between 2 people who are supposed to love each other. Marcus had tried everything: romantic dinners like this one, flowers delivered to her Pilates studio, weekend trips to Cancun and the Caribbean, a 2-carat diamond necklace for her birthday, a Range Rover as an anniversary gift. Nothing worked. Nothing filled the emptiness that seemed to grow larger with every passing year. And then, 3 weeks ago, Marcus had found something, an email, just one, but it was enough. The subject line read, "When are we telling him?" The sender was her personal trainer, Tyler, 28 years old, 6'2", the kind of man who looked like he was carved from marble and had the personality of wet cardboard. The email was simple: "I'm tired of sneaking around. You said you'd leave him by December. When?" Vanessa's response was 3 sentences. "He'll never leave me willingly, but he's not going to be a problem much longer. I'm working on a solution. Give me 2 more months." Marcus had read that email 73 times. He had counted. A solution. What kind of solution could she possibly be working on? And then he had started noticing things he had conveniently overlooked. The way she asked detailed questions about his life insurance. The new medication she kept leaving on the kitchen counter. The mention of a friend who had recently had a terrible accident that benefited her financially. And then he understood. His wife, the woman he had built his entire life around, the woman he had shared a bed with for 15 years, was planning something. Something that would remove him from the equation permanently. So tonight, Marcus had brought her to Antonio's, not out of romantic hope, out of necessity. He needed to understand exactly what he was dealing with. He needed to see her, really see her, one more time before he did what needed to be done. "The pasta is cold," Vanessa said, pushing her plate away with 2 fingers like it had offended her. "How did you expect them to get the temperature right when they're so busy?" "It was hot when they brought it out 2 minutes ago," Marcus said quietly. "Well, I don't like to eat anything that's not at the perfect temperature." She signaled the waiter with an impatient wave. "Can we get a fresh plate? And this time, maybe you could time it so it's actually hot when it reaches my table." The young waiter, who looked like he couldn't have been more than 25, flushed red. "Of course, ma'am, I apologize." Marcus watched his wife as the waiter hurried away. She didn't even look at him, didn't acknowledge him. He was just infrastructure to her. Just someone whose sole purpose was to maintain her comfort. And it had been this way for so long that Marcus could barely remember what it felt like to be loved by her. He could barely remember the version of himself that had believed she loved him at all. "Marcus, are you listening?" Vanessa's voice cut through his thoughts. I'm sorry, what did you say? I said I need to speak to your accountant about restructuring some of the asset allocation. I want to ensure my investments are properly diversified. There it was, another piece of the puzzle. She wanted access to the account structure, probably so she could understand where all the money was, where it would flow after he was gone. I'll set up an appointment for you, Marcus said calmly. Make sure it's before Friday. I also need your signature on some documents. What kind of documents? Just updating the beneficiary information on your life insurance policy. It's been 5 years. Things change. I want to make sure everything is current. Marcus set down his fork. This woman across from him, this beautiful woman in the $3,000 Chanel dress, was sitting here calmly asking him to sign documents that would make her the sole beneficiary of his insurance as she planned his death. How had he not seen this? How had he loved this person for so long and not understood that there was nothing inside her but empty greed? Of course, Marcus said, his voice steady. Whatever you need. She smiled, that smile that used to make his heart race. Now it just made him feel cold. Their waiter appeared with her fresh pasta. He set it down carefully, made sure she had fresh water, asked if there was anything else. He was trying so hard to make her happy, and she barely glanced at him. Marcus thought about that young waiter. He had probably paid for college with his tips. Probably had a family he was sending money to. Probably had dreams that his job at Antonio's was going to help him build. And Vanessa had treated him like he was nothing. Like his only value was his ability to serve her. That was when Marcus realized something crucial. He wasn't just any man to Vanessa. He was specifically useful because he had money, because he could provide. If he couldn't do that anymore, he wasn't a husband. He wasn't a person. He was just dead weight. And in that moment, something in Marcus shifted. He had come to this dinner thinking he needed to figure out how to escape her, how to divorce her in a way that protected himself and his assets. He had come prepared to be afraid. But fear required vulnerability. And right now, Marcus felt something else entirely. He felt clarity. He felt strategic. He felt like a man who was about to turn a test back on the person administering it. The dinner continued for another 40 minutes. Vanessa complained about her tennis instructor, complained about her friends, complained about a fundraiser she had to attend next week. She didn't ask Marcus a single question about his day, his work, his life. She just talked at him about her, with the kind of casual indifference that suggested he was a houseplant that happened to be useful for financial purposes. At the end of the dinner, Marcus paid the check. Nearly $400 for food that Vanessa had mostly complained about and left mostly uneaten. The waiter thanked him profusely, and Marcus left a $50 tip. He watched the young man's face light up, watched genuine gratitude appear in his eyes. It was such a simple thing. Recognition. A thank you, an acknowledgement that he mattered. This waiter would never have that from Vanessa. In the car on the way home, Vanessa texted on her phone. Marcus didn't ask who she was talking to, he already knew. It was Tyler. Probably sexting. Probably planning their future together. Probably laughing about the stupid rich guy who was about to be removed from the picture. When they got home, Vanessa went straight to her bedroom, the master suite that she had increasingly claimed as her own. Marcus went to his office on the 3rd floor of their Buckhead mansion. He sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about what he needed to do. The next morning, Marcus called his lawyer. I need to make some changes to my will, he said. His lawyer, James Chen, was someone he had worked with for 12 years. James understood business, understood wealth, understood the complications that came with significant assets. More importantly, James understood discretion. What kind of changes? James asked. I want to remove my wife as the beneficiary of my life insurance policy. I want to add a stipulation that if anything should happen to me that is not of natural causes, my assets are not to be distributed to her in any way. Instead, they're to go into a trust managed by the estate trustee, with distributions only available for specific purposes. That's a significant change, Marcus. What's prompting this? Marcus took a breath. He couldn't tell James the full truth, but he could tell him enough. I have reason to believe my wife is not acting in my best interest. I want to ensure that my assets are protected and that she can't access them in a way that I wouldn't approve of. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Is she having an affair? James asked carefully. Yes, and you're planning to divorce. Eventually, But first, I want to secure everything. I'll draw up the papers. We need to document everything though, Marcus. If you're changing your will and life insurance beneficiary, it helps to have clear reasons. Medical evidence, emails, something that establishes that you had rational reasons for making these changes. I understand. Do you have any of that documentation? I'll get it, Marcus said. After he hung up the phone, Marcus did something he had never done in 15 years of marriage. He installed a security system in his home that was undetectable. Hidden cameras, audio recording devices. He documented everything Vanessa said, every text she sent, every behavior that suggested she was planning to harm him. It took 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, Marcus watched his wife's movements become increasingly frantic. She was pushing the timeline. He heard her on the phone with Tyler, voices raised in controlled anger. "No, I can't wait," Vanessa hissed into her phone one evening. "He's getting suspicious. I saw him on the phone with James Chen. That's his lawyer. We need to move this up." "What are you planning?" Tyler's voice crackled through the phone. "I told you, his heart medication. I had a friend fill a prescription. It's not the real thing. It's something that will cause a cardiac event. No one will know. Heart attack in a 42-year-old man who works 60 hours a week. People will assume it's stress." Marcus's blood went cold. She was going to poison him. She had actually gone that far. He heard himself breathing in the darkness of the hallway, heard the sound like it was coming from someone else. Some distant person watching a movie about his own life. That night, Marcus called James back. "I have everything we need," Marcus said. "Audio recordings, video footage, written documentation of a murder plot. I also have evidence that she's actively planning to execute this plan." "My God," James breathed. "Marcus, we need to go to the police immediately." "Not yet," Marcus said. "I want to give her one more chance to understand what she's done. I want to see if there's any part of her that will choose differently when faced with the truth. I know that sounds like forgiveness, but it's not. It's closure. I need it." The next evening, Marcus requested a family dinner. He cooked it himself, which was unusual enough that Vanessa actually paid attention. He made her favorite pasta. He opened a bottle of wine that she had mentioned wanting to try. He set the table carefully, with candles, with the kind of intentionality she had always claimed to value. And when they were seated, with wine poured and plates full, Marcus told her. "I know about Tyler," he said calmly. "I know about the affair. I know about the medication. I know about everything, Vanessa." She went absolutely still. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. "I also know that you were planning to poison me. I have recordings of you discussing it with him. I have documentation of the prescription. I have security footage of you exchanging money with someone at a pharmacy. I have everything. Everything you need to go to prison for attempted murder." Vanessa's face didn't crumple, didn't show any emotion at all. Her expression just went blank, like a person turning off a light switch. "What do you want?" she asked flatly. And that, Marcus thought, was the most honest moment they had ever shared. Not "I love you," not "I'm sorry," not even "I didn't mean to." Just a practical question about what he wanted in exchange for his silence. "I want a divorce," Marcus said. "No arguments, no drawn-out legal battle. You'll sign whatever paperwork my lawyer prepares. You'll accept a settlement that is generous but not excessive. $1 million. One house in Atlanta that you can keep or sell. That's it. Everything else stays with me. And if I refuse, then I go to the police with all of this evidence, and you spend the next 20 years in prison for attempted murder. At 42, you'll be out when you're in your 60s. By then, Tyler will have moved on to someone younger. You'll have nothing and no one." Vanessa stared at her pasta. She cut a piece slowly, deliberately, put it in her mouth, chewed it, swallowed. "The pasta is cold," she said, and Marcus laughed. It came out of him like a bark, like something that had been trapped in his chest for years finally breaking free. He laughed until tears ran down his face, and Vanessa sat across from him, perfectly composed, eating cold pasta while her world collapsed around her. 3 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Vanessa signed everything without arguing. She walked away with $1 million and a house she immediately put on the market. She didn't ask for spousal support. She didn't fight for anything. It was like she had made the calculation and determined that the game was over. Marcus never saw her again after she left the house that day. She moved to Miami, started a lifestyle blog, began dating a surgeon who apparently didn't know her history. and Marcus was left in his mansion with the security cameras still running, the hidden audio devices still transmitting, and the kind of emptiness that comes from being married to a ghost. He expected to feel relieved. Instead, he felt hollow. The only part of his life that had remained consistent through all the business success and wealth accumulation was his marriage, and now that was gone. Yes, it had been a lie. Yes, she had been planning to kill him. But for 15 years, he had built his entire identity around being someone's husband. Without that, he wasn't sure who he was anymore. Marcus tried to fill the emptiness with his work. He bought a new office building in Buckhead. He started a new real estate development project in East Atlanta. He went to his coffee shops and made sure every employee felt valued, felt seen, the way that young waiter at Antonio's had made him think about what it meant to be recognized. But nothing filled the hole. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Marcus received a phone call from an unexpected source. "Mr. Webb, my name is Patricia Sanders. I'm the general manager of the Piedmont Avenue Antonio's location. I'm calling because one of our employees, David Chen, mentioned that you had been a frequent diner with us and that you had shown him unusual kindness about 6 months ago." Marcus tried to remember. Surely the waiter he had tipped that night, the one who had been so grateful. "Yes, I remember David," Marcus said. "Well, David recently had a family emergency. His father had a stroke, and his family doesn't have adequate insurance. He's working here to pay for his father's medical bills, but it's not going to be enough. He came to me asking if there was anything we could do to help, and I told him that I'd already helped as much as I could. But then I remembered what David said about you. About how you had tipped him well that night, how you had thanked him for his service, how you had looked at him like he was a person instead of just an employee. David said that moment meant something to him, that it made him think maybe the world wasn't entirely cruel." Patricia paused. "I wondered if you might be willing to help, not as an act of charity, but as someone who seems to understand the value of acknowledging human worth." Marcus found himself saying yes before he fully understood what he was agreeing to. Patricia gave him David's father's medical fund information. Marcus transferred enough money to cover the entire procedure and 6 months of recovery care. Then he did something he had never done in his life. He went to the hospital to meet David's father. He sat in the waiting room with David and David's mother, 2 people who had no reason to trust him, no reason to believe that a stranger would care about their situation. He sat with them through the surgery. And when the doctors came out and said everything had gone well, he was there to see David's face light up in a way that reminded Marcus exactly what gratitude looked like. What genuine, unfiltered, unperformed gratitude looked like. David's mother cried. She held Marcus's hands and she cried, and she thanked him in a way that made Marcus understand something his wife had never taught him. Love wasn't about possession. It wasn't about taking. It was about seeing someone, really seeing them, and choosing to alleviate their pain. And the remarkable thing was that when you did that, when you chose to see people, to help people, to recognize their value, the universe seemed to respond in kind. Marcus became a different kind of businessman after that. Not less successful. If anything, more successful. But success started to mean something different. He started a foundation that helped small business owners and entrepreneurs who didn't have access to capital. He started mentoring young people in real estate. He started making sure that everyone who worked for him, from the executives to the people who cleaned the offices at night, felt valued. And his business thrived. Because it turned out that when people felt seen, when they felt like they mattered, they worked harder. They cared more. They wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. 1 year after his divorce, Marcus was at a charity gala in downtown Atlanta. The kind of event where the city's wealthiest came to celebrate their own generosity. He was standing near the bar, waiting for a drink, when someone bumped into him. "I'm so sorry," a voice said, female voice, apologetic. Marcus turned. The woman standing in front of him was maybe 30 years old. She wore a simple black dress that was elegant but not expensive. Her hair was pulled back in a practical bun. She had a genuine warmth in her eyes that reminded him immediately of the way David's mother had looked at him in that hospital waiting room. "It's completely fine," Marcus said. "My fault. I wasn't paying attention. I'm Sophia," the woman said, extending her hand. "I work for the foundation that's being honored tonight. the one that helps formerly incarcerated individuals re-enter the workforce. Marcus shook her hand. Her grip was firm. Her eyes met his directly, without calculation or performance. I'm Marcus. I'm familiar with that foundation. I've considered making a donation. Well, you should definitely talk to our director. She's around here somewhere. Sophia smiled, and it was the kind of smile that didn't need makeup or perfect teeth or any of the artifices that Vanessa had relied on. It was just human, just real. They talked for over an hour that night. Not about money or business or any of the things that typically dominated conversation at charity galas. They talked about why she cared about the work, about her own family's struggles with the criminal justice system, about the way that people who had made mistakes deserved a chance to prove that they were more than their worst moment. And Marcus listened, really listened. Not the way he had pretended to listen to Vanessa, but with genuine interest and genuine curiosity about another human being. At the end of the night, Sophia gave him her phone number. In case you do want to make that donation, she said. Marcus kept that number in his pocket for 3 days before he called her. When he did, he asked her to dinner. Not Antonio's, not a fancy restaurant designed to impress. Just a small Ethiopian restaurant in Little 5 Points where the food was real and the atmosphere was warm. And as Marcus sat across from Sophia, sharing a meal that didn't matter because it was expensive, but mattered because it was made with care, he realized something. He was happy. Not the kind of happiness that comes from achievement or status or the accumulation of wealth. The kind that comes from being seen, from seeing another person, from sharing something genuine in a world full of performance. He thought about Vanessa, about how their entire marriage had been a performance. He thought about the waiter at Antonio's and how a simple acknowledgement of his humanity had mattered so much to Marcus that it had changed his life's trajectory. He thought about that moment when he had told Vanessa he knew about everything, and she had asked, "What do you want?" As if love and connection and partnership meant nothing, as if it all came down to a transaction. And he realized that was the difference between his marriage and this dinner with Sophia. With Vanessa, everything was a transaction. With Sophia, everything was an exchange. A genuine sharing, a willingness to see and be seen. The test that Vanessa had failed wasn't about money or loyalty or devotion. It was about humanity. When given the choice between greed and love, she had chosen greed. When given the opportunity to see Marcus as a person, she had only ever seen him as a resource. But Sophia, a woman he had just met, already saw him more clearly than Vanessa ever had. And that made all the difference. As the months passed, Marcus and Sophia's relationship deepened. She never asked him for money. Never once mentioned his wealth or his houses or his portfolio. In fact, she seemed to actively ignore all of that, interested only in who he was when stripped of all of those external markers. She challenged him in ways Vanessa never had. She asked him hard questions about why he did the work he did. She pushed back when he started making decisions based purely on profit rather than purpose. She made him be a better person, and crucially, she let him do the same for her. They became partners in the truest sense, each of them seeing the other, each of them working to bring out the best in the other, each of them choosing, actively and consciously, to be worthy of being seen. The test that Vanessa had administered to Marcus, unknowingly, had revealed something crucial about what people value. And the test that Marcus had administered to Vanessa, knowingly, had revealed that some people are incapable of seeing beyond their own greed. But there was a third test happening in all of this, a test that the universe was administering to Marcus himself. Would he become bitter? Would he let his experience with Vanessa poison his ability to trust, to love, to be vulnerable again? Or would he use what he had learned to become someone better? Someone who valued the small moments. Someone who saw the worth in everyone. Someone who understood that money could buy many things, but it could never buy love. He chose the latter. And in choosing it, he discovered that love had been available to him all along. He just had to get divorced from a woman who was trying to kill him in order to see it. The irony wasn't lost on him. Exactly 2 years after his divorce from Vanessa was finalized, Marcus married Sophia in a small ceremony at a community center in the neighborhood where she had grown up. His mother came. Her family came. David, the young waiter, came and served champagne to the guests. No Instagram photos. No magazine features. No social media documentation of the moment. Just people who loved Marcus and Sophia gathered together to celebrate their commitment to see each other, really see each other, for the rest of their lives. And when Marcus looked at his wife as they exchanged vows, he didn't feel the flutter he had felt